As an Indian, I can certainly guarantee that India would never overtake China. And here is why. I will compare both countries' data from 2020 to 2023. We will look at wealth, economy, growth, technology, and space. Let's start by looking at their economies. India's economy is currently $3.4 trillion in 2023, while China's economy is $20.3 trillion. This makes India's economy approximately 6 times smaller. Now for the growth rate. India is growing substantially slower than China. The IMF has projected that India's economy will grow 6.1%, whilst China will grow 5.2%. If you do the calculations, 6.1% of India's $3.4 trillion economy will only give India a $210 billion yearly growth, whereas 5.2% of China's $20.3 trillion economy would give them a $1 trillion growth. This means that India is still growing 5 times slower, with an economy that is 6 times smaller. Let's take a look at the total wealth of both countries. At $120 trillion, China is by far the richest country in the world. India's current wealth is just under $2 trillion. So right now, China is more than 60 times richer than India when it comes to accumulated wealth. Partly thanks to the British, who looted $45 trillion from India in the 190 years of colonization. We will look at the trading figures next. Out of the $136 billion traded between the two countries last year, India imported $118 billion from China, while only exporting $17 billion. This exposed how reliant India is, even after the border clash of 2020 that killed 20 Indian soldiers. India and its citizens made a pledge to stop buying Chinese products, but the import numbers only went up even more ever since. Out of the world's top 500 companies, China has the most on the list at 145, and India has only 7. Most of China's companies are within the top 10 and top 100, while the 7 Indian companies that made the list are ranked between 140 and 490. Let's compare the largest banks in the world. The 4 largest banks in the world are from China. Out of the top 100 banks in the world, China has 17 on the list. India has only 1, and it's ranked 53. Let's compare the reserves for both countries, including natural resources and gold. China has $3.2 trillion in reserves, while India has only $563 billion, which makes India's reserves 6 times smaller. According to Japan's research report, here is the list of countries ranked in the most important technology sectors. Starting from 2007, you can see it was dominated by Japan and the United States. Even South Korea was ahead of China. But ever since 2017, China has completely dominated every other country. Sadly for India, we didn't make it in any category. And lastly, let's compare the numbers of rockets launched into space. In 2021, China sent a total of 56 aircraft into space, whereas India only sent 2. I am going to stop comparing. It's getting beyond humiliating for my country. We accept. We are inferior compared to China in every way possible.
The British looted as much as $45 trillion. Let that number sink in. $45 trillion between 1765 and 1938. That's how much India, which used to be one of the richest countries in the world, was reduced to one of the poorest. The biggest headline of today. China is now the richest country in the world. It has overtaken the United States. China's net worth is now $120 trillion, $30 trillion more than that of the United States, $120 trillion.
How Britishers killed 1.8 billion Indians. How Britishers killed 1.8 billion Indians. How Britishers killed 1.8 billion Indians.